Hello and welcome to another episode of Fast Track Canada. I'm here today with Ryan Kalisky from WareMatch, and I'm going to let him just explain to you exactly what WareMatch does, and he's going to take it away right now. Ryan?
Well, thanks for having me, Thomas. And so WareMatch is a 3PL marketplace. And the mission of WareMatch is to streamline the entire quoting and RFP process in the 3PL warehouse space. I would like to make it clear that we are in the logistics space, and in this space, there are a lot of, warehouse management and operations is very high tech, but quoting out and finding the best fit solution for your fulfillment partner is something that's rather outdated. So bit of a background on myself is I had a distribution company and I was always trying to store containers and distributing different SKUs where I had different certifications I needed, different volumes that I had with different clients. And I was always referred to a warehouse or a 3PL by a broker or sometimes a lead generator. And what I found was there was a big lack of transparency where the broker or the lead gen was kind of sending me to a 3PL that they maybe made some money off of. And I never really knew if I was getting the best fit. So me and my co-founder, Ben, we decided to invest in technology and create a transparent marketplace that organizes all the data of the 3PLs who have different certifications, different availabilities, different amenities, different value adds, different goals, as well as the data of brands who have different fulfillment goals, different SKUs, etc., to help these clients match with the best fit 3PL. We're not only a lead gen, we're building a ecosystem where there are a lot of companies who want to market their services to 3PL warehouses, like racking companies, operations, WMS companies, which is a warehouse management system, TMSs, pest control. There's a lot of aspects to warehousing that a lot of people may not realize. So what we are also building is an ecosystem for these companies to be able to market to 3PLs. So right now we are in Canada, the US, and we're onboarding in the UK. We have about almost 300 warehouses since, the beginning of May, which is kind of when we had our relaunch. We raised some seed capital in February, and we made our tech really robust. And I've built a really cool team right now. We're about 11 people, and we are growing our supply network, and we are also matching really cool brands with some really cool 3PLs and providing a sort of digital consulting aspect to the space.
So 3PL, what does that stand for?
It's a third-party logistics warehouse. So
Okay.
something that's really cool about this space is it's a really big space. It's actually bigger than the leasing space, but most people don't really know about the third-party logistics space unless you're in it. An example of third-party logistics is, let's say there's a massive company who needs to distribute goods to a certain region and they don't have their own warehouse, or they do, but it may be cheaper for them to outsource all the labor and the inventory management. There's a massive industry of warehouses that they lease out or buy space and as a service store the goods and handle all the fulfillment. So there's a lot of data that industrial brokers, they don't even handle. It's a different space. That there's a lot of data involved that finding the best fit is not something that the human brain could really do for two reasons. One, there are many different options, and different warehouses and 3PLs have different cash flow situations and different availability fluctuations that only a software could be able to track who has what available. And by creating this transparent marketplace, what we're really doing is allowing 3PL warehouses to bid on clients, where rather than an industrial real estate market, this is their business where cash flow comes into act. And some businesses may be willing to drop their prices depending if they really want to deal at a certain time. And what a software does, and the way it works on WareMatch is a brand comes in and gives all their information to the software. And not only do we match the client with the best options, we allow them to browse whatever they want to browse, but we allow them to send all their information to many different warehouses at once, where today they would have to go and call those 3PL warehouses one by one as they don't know each other, fill out repetitive Excel sheets, and go through various email threads to communicate this information. And there's a lot of disputes in communication, and information gets lost when warehouses have to take the data down, and sometimes volumes or deals change. So we're trying to organize the information and streamline the quoting process for these warehouses and for the brand. Where for the warehouse, the 3PL warehouse, they could retrieve all the information in one dashboard, create a quote. We've created a platform for them to actually create a quote and manage their quotes and shoot it back to the portal of the brand, where now this brand could receive 10 different quotes from 10 different warehouses who don't know each other, and they could centralize all the quotes. And we have a tool that compares all the quotes for them and allows them to, we do the math for them, and we try and show them why they're picking the best deal. And it's interesting because a lot of people don't really realize that perhaps there's an inland 3PL in the Midwest that is actually cheaper for your entire project than someone closer to the port, where a lot of times companies ship goods into a port and they think they need a warehouse closer to a port, when there's actually a vast variety of options inland who could offer 2-day guaranteed delivery and are much cheaper based off their geographic location and their rent. So based off the needs of the customer, some companies may be okay with 2-day delivery or 1-day delivery or 3-day delivery. So there's a huge organization of data and analytics that our software is built to organize that will facilitate, getting quoted out and finding the best fit, which could save companies a lot of money, as well as help warehouses and 3PLs, maximize their revenue potential.
So is this mostly for e-commerce companies that are, they need somebody who's going to do the fulfillment for them?
Yeah, so that's like one type of company is e-commerce. There's so many different types of companies who need 3PL warehouses. They could be e-commerce, they could be even in construction, which is the opposite of e-commerce, where storing their materials and their equipment is not even their main business. They're not storing the goods to even sell them. They're storing the goods to because it's a one of their costs, and they need to do it in their operation. So many different warehouses specialize in different types of goods. Um, There are some warehouses who are much cheaper overall if you're doing packages and parcels, but if you want to store lumber, they're going to be very expensive because their business model is to churn goods. While other warehouses they want to store long-term material because there's less labor and they maybe have to hire less staff and they need less of a sophisticated inventory system. And all these businesses have their own business models. Sorry, all these 3PLs have their own business models that really only they know. And there's times where companies who are in the construction space or are in the supplement space, they know a lot about their main business, but supply chain is something that's pretty complex that a lot of people aren't familiar with or aren't experts at. Um, a huge user case for us is brands who are a lot of brands want to come into America or go to different countries. And while they understand their product and how to sell their product and their marketing very well, they aren't very familiar with supply chain. So they're kind of left out to dry. While bigger companies have logistics departments, which we do tend to as well because we allow the big 3PLs to bid on big contracts. For the smaller companies who don't have teams set for logistics, they're on their own calling different 3PLs and comparing Google Sheets and PDFs that, it's pretty difficult for them to know if they're getting the best fit. I'm not saying it's difficult to find one, but it's difficult to know if they can maybe, A, be dealing with a warehouse with better reviews, with better service, but B, also dealing with a warehouse who may save them some money down the line. All in all, there's a lot of data that, because of the vast variety of supply types and also the vast variety of demand types, which is different brands with different business models and different good sizes and volumes and geographic distribution needs, there's just a lot of data that a software like ours will be able to organize as well as streamline the process for these groups to match.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if I was, say, launching a supplements company,
For sure.
and I decided, okay, well, I need something that is temperature controlled. Would I be able to see that on your website if it's a temperature controlled warehouse?
For sure. And that's a great question. So we've built WareMatch off a filter-based system where there's honestly multiple ways you could find a warehouse on our site. One is, in your case, you could go onto our filters and you could check in temperature controlled. You could check in whatever certificates you need. If there's any warehouse management systems that you plug in well with, we will match you with the warehouses that also integrate with those warehouse management systems. Refrigeration or whatever you need. Yes, you could filter it in, and then all the warehouses that have those, filters will appear. So that's one way. Another way is you could go search by a geographic location, and you could compare different locations. We have a compare tool where you could click on as many 3PLs as you want, and we'll show you a breakdown of their services, amenities, um, and their value adds. We also have our Warehouse Connect model, WareMatch Connect model, which is our coolest tool, where you essentially come on and you fill out a request for quote sheet, which is us taking the information on your goods. And in that request for quote, you're going to check off all the different things you need, whether there's certs, amenities, what your volumes are, what your shipping patterns are, preference and location. And what you do is you take that quote, you put in a geographic location and a radius, could be 50 to 500 miles or more, and we're going to show you based off of your, the certificates you need and all these service-based, qualitative measures. We're going to show you the best match 3PLs and allow you to be able to get quoted out by the same amount of 3PLs as you were before, but the best ones. So the goal is a lot of people, companies, they probably speak to 5, 10 options because it takes a lot of time to get quoted out by a 3PL. And every single person who comes to work here, the first activity they do to understand our business model is they say, do not use WareMatch and go try and try and onboard or store goods in a 3PL. And
Hmm.
most of the time, they can't even get an answer right away. So not only are you being matched to 3PLs, but what's really cool about WareMatch as well is all our listings are curated and made by the operator themselves. So you're directly contacting the person you need to speak to in sales or operations at that 3PL through WareMatch. So we actually streamline the entire, timeline of getting to the right person in when looking for a 3PL.
Yeah, it's a good idea that you ask your employees to start off that way. Surprisingly, whenever I have had problems with software or something and I call a helpline, I'll
Yeah.
ask them, have you actually ever tried this yourself? And it's just crickets. Like,
Yeah.
obviously they
Yeah.
haven't, because they're telling me to do things that can't be done. They have a different version of the software or God knows what, but it becomes pretty apparent that they themselves have never even attempted to
Yeah.
actually go on their own website and open up an account or do whatever it is, yet they're on the help desk.
Yeah.
So now I've read here a comparison between WareMatch and Airbnb, that it's like the Airbnb for warehouses. How accurate is that comparison?
So I I think that WareMatch is similar to Airbnb on a user interface perspective. Airbnb is a familiar interface, which is a marketplace in real estate. I think that our business model is rather different than Airbnb. I think we have a mix. I don't really like comparing WareMatch to other companies just because it's the
Hmm.
industrial space and it's not as it's
Business to
not as
business. Hmm.
it's business to business.
Hmm.
Um, we have an Expedia aspect to us where the concept where you could take your information and shoot it out to as many different 3PLs as you want at once, because there's a whole quoting aspect. In Airbnb, you really look for a certain like a certain region in a city where you want to stay, whereas WareMatch will help you analyze whether you even want to be near a city or inland, depending on your goals.
Hmm.
Something that's different between WareMatch and Airbnb. Well, they both offer what Airbnb does, and it's obviously a great company, is it what does Airbnb do? You can't really list an Airbnb if you have an empty apartment with no furniture and no TV and no electricity. But given that you have the resources to have an Airbnb, Airbnb provides you a tool to receive the onboarding information and connect with users and organize all of the all of the data for the booking. And it also gives the user some protection in the sense that Airbnbs get reviewed, and Airbnb hosts, you can know if they're good or bad. So on that aspect, we want to give the same comfort to our users, where we've built an internal review systems on our 3PLs where in freight stuff happens, and we're allowing 3PLs to get, great reputations. But if they mess up, then brands will be able to know that they messed up in a certain way, which gives comfort where there's, in the vetting process of these 3PLs.
So like
Um,
reviews? You mean like
yeah, we have an
customer
internal review
reviews?
system. Yes. So when you use a 3PL, you get to review them after. And if something happened, you could record, yeah, like they messed up on this perspective. And if they did very well, you could be able to review the 3PL as well.
So
Um,
so
yeah.
can other people read these reviews?
Yeah. So when someone's looking at a 3PL, they
Hmm.
could see the review. The reviews are anonymous, but you could see if anything has happened, and you could see their rating. So we're building
Okay.
like there's a lead generator, so you could pay to be at the top. We are not doing that. What we are doing is the best, like on the top will be the geographically close locations, but also better reviewed warehouses will be treated better on the site,
Sure.
because we encourage
Hmm.
warehouses to work well and not mess up.
Right. Right. And I guess you moderate those as well in case you just have somebody who's a lunatic who's leaving
Of
in
course.
an unfair review. So when I
Yes,
was looking
of
at your
course.
website, I saw everything seemed to be quoted per pallet.
Yeah.
Is that normal then? It's not by square foot, it's by pallet?
No, so everything is not coded by the pallet. We actually are probably one of the first dynamic marketplaces in the industrial real estate space. By the way, we also have a marketplace for flexible industrial leases, where we actually are empowering industrial owners to be able to price out by the pallet, by the square footage, by the cubic foot, where we realize that there's a lot more to industrial space than just square footage. There's amenities, there's um, dock
Height.
doors, there's certification, there's ceiling height, there's a bunch of
Mm.
stuff that there's also cash flow situations, like there's different flexible ways that industrial brokers typically push leases longer term, which is great. But a lot of companies and landlords may want more flexible leases that brokers are too busy on the longer term leases, which is obviously better for them. So we're trying to be, the new dynamic listing platform where they could agree on a price
Mhm.
and go from there.
Depending on
Um,
what's being stored.
Yeah. Well, so we
Yeah.
have an option where if someone wants to just sublease their space and allow someone to come in, we're a marketplace where they go and close the lease on their own. But we're like Kijiji in the sense where they can find each other. And we our thing is our main value add is we allow these 3PLs to be able to market their space dynamically, whereas if you go to a broker and you have a very flexible warehouse, they'll say, well, is it industrial or office? And there's a bit of a static communication basis between you two, where you have to send them pictures, and the broker will choose which quotes they bring to you. And there's also the whole aspect where some guys are, let's say a guy wants to list at $18 a foot, and they tell a broker the lowest they'll go is 13. Perhaps someone on the software could offer them 10, and they'll realize, you know what, this is cash in front of my face, I'll take it. Whereas brokers don't have the capacity to go and renegotiate back and forth, and the software does that. So we actually encourage brokers to, list properties that they may have leased out that a lot of people may have extra space.
Sure.
Um, and flexible,
Instead of getting zero.
well, exactly. So that's one aspect of it. Our main business is the 3PL space, and we do price out picks, packs, labeling, ticketing. We allow the 3PL to price it out. We are actually moving away from marketing pricing. We want to base the matching based off of services and value adds. And then we want to allow the user to give all their information to these warehouses, and then allow the 3PL to create a full quote based on that information.
Is
Where it's optional to post your pricing, and what we're doing is kind of on a marketing perspective, we market that the pricing is like a baseline.
mhm.
It's an approximate pricing that you get the real pricing when you submit the quote. And we're going to be able to release KPIs to these warehouses and let them know, hey, if you put pricing in this city, you are going to get more traction or not. But the whole goal is to match them based off of services, and then send them the information and allow this bidding process where 3PLs could, win a deal and either come down on their price or just submit the best quote to the customer. We're also
Hmm.
building something where the other way around, which is really cool in my opinion. Um, Someone could come on and say, "I need fulfillment in this area," and we're gonna have like a silent marketplace in a 3PL operator dashboard where they can where the best matched 3PLs could go and actually bid on that contract, and they could go and hunt out to the customer themselves. Whereas competing lead gens, they choose where they want to send a lead to. So
Okay.
we're trying to provide this transparent aspect to everything.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, and are there any other, like, do you have competitors in this space, or are you the first mover?
Yeah, so there are definitely, I mean, in the leasing space, sorry, my computer. There are definitely competitors in the space.
Hmm.
Though our user feedback, um, the user feedback we have is that our tech and our user interface is much more advanced than any competitor. Our goal was to basically raise money early on and invest in a really cool software that changes the game. There are lead generators, but and um, space matchers, but when you really use them, and by the way, they do very well. So it's a big, massive space, and they do very well. What I believe our value add is that we are transparent in the sense where I know companies who have used competitors where on the brand side they force you to use their own WMS system, and a lot of operators do not love the fact that they have better WMS systems that like they would prefer to use, so there's a blockage aspect. On the brand side, a lot of these other lead generators are kind of a brokerage, but online. So you fill out a form online. They have a website, and it's not a transparent marketplace. They're a lead generator that will then email you 2 days later and manually broker it. And I've dealt with competitors back in my day where that's why I wanted to fix the industry. Where they'd send me an email on the site. It says there are 60 warehouses in this region, and then 2 days later, they'd call me back and I'd find out they only spoke to two warehouses and the rate was terrible. So that's not really, I don't even consider that more a direct competition of what we're doing. We're providing a transparency aspect to
Hmm.
this. But what we're really doing is enhancing, and we raised money early on so we could really build a tech that outdoes everybody. All our competition bootstrapped early on and kind of, um, and they do very well. Nothing bad to say about any of the competition. But we're trying to build a different approach where it's this, um, technol very technologically advanced platform that analyzes the data and streamlines the entire quoting process. Where we're not
Hmm.
just finding you a lead, we're actually handling the quoting process as well, and we're building more of a marketplace and an ecosystem, as I said, for these operators to market to warehouses, and we're working on a few other marketplaces down the line that are going to be really cool too. Um,
Wow.
yeah.
So let's talk about how you've been scaling up, because you said that since May you've added 300 warehouses. So that's pretty amazing, I think. In 2 months, you've now gone to 300 properties. How did you manage to do that so quickly? And do you think that you're going to continue with that kind of momentum?
For sure. So what people always ask, why didn't you start brokering warehouses a year ago? And me and my co-founder Ben, we sat down in the office and really worked hard and made no money for a year and built this tech with Rahul, our CTO. A tech allows you to scale your capacity. So it's honestly it's a complex thing we built because there's a lot of data involved, but we had to make it very user friendly. To answer your question, we are scaling quickly because we built a platform where warehouse operators could make listings within 10 minutes as long as they have their own information without our help. There are other competing directories that the directory themselves just uploads a bunch of 3PLs, and then the 3PLs have to come and claim it. um, Ours is all organic, where it's very easy because of the tech we built for them to make seamless listings. Um, and it's very easy for brands to it's very not frustrating for brands to come on and find a 3PL right away. A lot of competing sites, you fill out a form and then nothing happens and you get an email 2 days later. Or the UI user interface is very important in an industry that's a bit more traditional. The 3PL warehousing space is a bit more traditional on the marketing side. than it is even on the operating side or the freight spaces. So I think we just made it very user friendly and it's easy for people to know where to go. And there's less people who are coming on and leaving the site because they get frustrated. Um, and I think that there's a lot of value add for both parties. So I think the users are seeing that. And I mean, we have a bunch of users who could probably attest that they know the competition and they think that what we've built is on a complete other level, as than our competitors are doing, and they do very well. So we're very excited to see where this
Mm-hmm.
goes. Another thing is we also have investors and great partners all around the world. We have groups in Dubai and the UK who are in the space, and they're pushing us business as well. And it's a compared to the industrial leasing space, the freight space is way less regulated. So we could onboard 3PLs in any country and market for them. So just today, we're getting our first onboardings in the UK. We're going to be expanding to the Middle East. Farfel is one of our strategic partners, and they have plans to expand this to North Africa, Australia, the UK, and Southeast Asia. So there's a huge global expansion plan we have, which I'm very excited for. And we've also partnered up with great groups who I believe will really push us forward and understand the space very well. Everyone, I'm 27. I'm the oldest guy in the office. Our investors are on the tech savvy younger side as well. Um, our lead investor, Fit Ventures, led by David Bazoff, is, I mean, couldn't ask for a better lead investor. Very, very excited to be working with them. And I think that it's a space where you could push yourself forward if you're working with the right people. And I think that's something that we've established and accomplished so far.
Okay. And so right now, as far as your human resources go and scaling the tech side of it goes,
Yeah.
it sounds like you're running like a virtual company and people are working remotely. Is that how you're doing it?
No, we actually we're about 11 people.
Yeah.
We are six in the office. Um,
Okay.
Rahul, our CTO, lives on a blow up on top of me right now. So he works. He just went home for a bit for like 2 weeks, getting all his stuff, and he's moving back here. He was here for the last like many months.
Hmm.
Find yourself a CTO who, the second you raise money, leaves his all his things there, packs a bag, flew to Montreal the next day to live on a blow up for months. He's been paying rent there the entire time, didn't care. So we're really in it to win it also. We have one more engineer who's working in Alberta as well. And then we have a few in Edmonton, in India. Um, but they're not agencies, they're full time employees. And
Hmm.
Rahul, our head of tech is fluent in Hindi. He's from India, lived in Dubai. So he's very on top of everything. And he speaks Hindu and, there's no getting around him, which is also something that's very important to us. And he's making sure that everyone's working very hard and doing their job well.
Yeah. So how did you go about recruiting your programmers? Like how did you find them and how did you recruit them?
So we were lucky because Rahul had great connections to the top schools in India, where the engineers are top notch, and maybe 1% of them come to America, and the other 99% are really good. But the top 1% of the 99% are really, really good. And he got in touch with the universities there, and he also had connections from his own, personal connections. And we ran a bunch of interviews. It was a three-step process. First round was tech questions. Um, Second round was a case that we gave them to build something out. And myself and my partner had an unbiased review where we did we didn't know who was who, and we reviewed the output of what they coded, picked a top batch, and then we got into a third round, which was more fit. We're very big on fit and culture here, on a work ethic perspective, on a goals perspective, and also on a sociability perspective. We want everyone to get along, and we think culture is very important for a startup, especially. So yeah, I mean, the way we built our team was, I call it organically. We didn't use any agencies, and we have a strong tech leadership that speaks the language and had actual connections to India, which I would not have had if I didn't have him. So very fortunate for that.
Yeah. And so it gives you a chance to also try people out before making a big commitment, I guess.
Of course, and obviously tech is cheaper there, and we had everyone on trials, and we were very, 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 tight in terms of our expectations. And at the beginning, someone worked for us for a month, and then we peacefully said this isn't going to work, and we have developed a very, very strong, hardworking team, and they're very happy because they're being compensated very well for where they live, and for us, it's definitely cheaper and I believe better. We interviewed a ton of, I mean, we I interviewed a bunch of people from 5-year experiences to PhDs to big university graduates, and my review was unbiased. So I didn't know who was who, and it happened to be that majority of our top picks were abroad, which is great financially for us, but also obviously on a tech perspective.
Wow, that
Um,
sounds great. So I hope that this year you continue to grow exponentially like you have been. And maybe a year from now, 2 years from now, we can circle back and find
for
out what's
sure,
going on, and you'll have thousands of customers and a valuation north of $100 million.
that's the
Um,
plan.
yeah. So anyway, thank you so much for coming on to the podcast and for giving us your time and sharing your experiences with us.
I really appreciate it, Thomas. And when I bring all my engineers to Canada or America, I'll be calling you to help us out.
Oh, I
So
appreciate that. That sounds
yeah,
great. Okay. Well, thanks again. And we're going to wrap this episode up right now. Take care.
great.
Bye for now.
Thank you. Bye.